Peterson and, yeah. That is, that's the way they've always done it. Sometimes it's the same person. Today, I'm just, I was planning on being here for 5. Who does your structural design with? You?
What structure design work?
Buildings and things like that. I need to build some structures over in Rose, the smoking degrees.
Yeah.
So if I had somebody with experience, could
Yeah.
myself and mine was doing is tell me what's wrong with it.
Right.
You do your own design. So I thought I'll sketch that.
There you go.
Next, you look at it. What's in it?
There you go. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for joining us. I will go ahead and open our public hearing section of this. Call that to order. And the first item on the agenda is for the board to hold a project hearing of a proposed project. This is a project hearing. If you are interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet at the back of the room, which should include your name and address. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic be limited to the proposed project under consideration. The notice of this hearing was published as legally required, and at this time I will ask Mr. Pittman to explain the purpose of the hearing.
Thank you. Pursuant to Indiana Code Section 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may spend more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by a lease or bonds, it must hold a public hearing at which explanations of the potential value of the project to the school corporation and community are given. These public hearings and the adoption of resolutions is the very beginning of the legal process. These resolutions establish the financial terms for the proposed project.
Thank you. And now we will hear from our superintendent, Mr. Yancey, about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community and the need for this project.
Thank you. The general obligation bond project will consist of 13 new buses, B&L HVAC chiller and labor installation, tennis court lighting upgrades, technology upgrades, including B&L gymnasium, capital project upgrades for all buildings, maintenance, repairs, and equipment.
Thank you. Now we will hear from Mr. Yancey about how the proposed project meets the needs as described by the superintendent.
NLCS is using the performance service facility study that was done a few years ago, that we're looking at priorities in buses, HVAC, repair, building, upgrades, maintenance, equipment. NLCS is working to improve facilities in our school district, and this is one phase as we continue that improvement projects down the road.
Okay. And we will now hear from Damian Magos from Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, our underwriter, about how the proposed project will be financed, as well as information about the effect on typical property taxpayer.
Thank you. So, thank you. Nice to be in front of you again. As you just pointed out, we'll take a look at an estimated budget and then a proposed payback. We are looking at issuing general obligation bonds and thanks. We need to go back one. There we go. All right. Unlike first mortgage bonds or holding corporation bonds, general obligation bonds have a statutory limit. And the way that is calculated, it is 1/3 of 2% of your certified net assessed value less any other GO debt that you may, or general obligation bond that you may have outstanding. So you have $1.5 billion in certified net. 2% of that is a little over $30 million. 1/3 of that is $10 million. However, you still have about $5 million of general obligation bonds outstanding. In that, $1.5 million of the 2004 taxable general obligation, the pension bonds, and then we did the Series 22 issue, and there's $3,450,000 outstanding in that. So while your debt limit is a little over $10 million less the $5 million, you're able to issue up to $5,047,708. So we're looking at with the obligation bonds, where first mortgage bonds you have a maximum term and a maximum payment. With GO debt, we have a maximum borrowing amount, and we're looking at up to, we can't go over $5,047,000, but we'll say $5,045,000 in general obligation bonds, of which, and now this is, we have an estimate of the cost of issuance, but just to let you know that there are going to be some costs associated with issuing the debt. So not all of the funds will be used for construction, but a big chunk will be. It won't be any more than $100,000. And so somewhere, $4,009,000 something of construction proceeds, and then some cost of issuance to get to the $5,045,000. Looking at a bond sale sometime this spring for this discussion in April. Then I've also used a 6% interest rate. That is an incredibly high interest rate because we're on the next page. We're looking at paying these bonds off in essentially 2 years. But I think, as many of you know, I am very conservative when it comes to putting or setting the parameters, so not to exceed $5,045,000. And then these, if we issue bonds in 2024, we could start making a first payment in 25. And so we would have a small payment, and I'll show, this is looking at the debt service, the budget. a smaller payment in 2025 and then two larger payments in 26 and 27. Because when you look at the debt service rate, go back to, there we go. We're looking at in 2024 to 2025 a slight drop in the rate, and so we would fill that up a little bit with the new payment, and then in 2026 and 27. What that does is, if the board wanted to look at a larger project, we would be able to accommodate, and by a larger project, because we wouldn't have general obligation bond capacity with this, we would be using the holding corp like we've done in the past for a larger project, and you would be able to do something. Again, if by the end of this year we could have a payment, you can see there's a drop there. We could have a payment beginning in 25 and then kind of filling in 26. And so I think over the next month or so, we've got time. If the board opts to do that, then we could structure the payment stream like that. If not, we would just make the payment bigger. So we've got a lot of room as long as we don't go over that $5,045,000. And now when you put everything together and we include the operation fund, the red, those are the pension bonds, the GO, so those pay off. You've got one final payment next year. And the overall rate here in 2024 is just shy of $1, the overall school corporation rate. And we're not looking at going over that. And so there's plenty of room, like I said, depending on what the school board and administration want to do going forward. We could increase the 2025 payment a little bit to keep everything, or leave it like this, which would allow the ability and flexibility for the school corporation for another issue. If there's any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Do you have any?
So all of our general obligation bonds will be paid off at the end of 2027? All the bonds will be paid off? Is that?
Yes, I think, so these will be paid in 27, and then we have, because I've got the existing. Okay, so the 22 bond issue we did pays off in 25, and the pension bonds pay off in 25 as well. So everything would pay off in terms of GO debt by the bulk. We have the 22s and the pension in 25, and then 27 for these.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we will now open the public hearing. Remember, if you would like to speak, please sign in on the sheet which is located at the entrance by the door. As I mentioned earlier, we do ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed project and financing, and keep any comments to 3 minutes, and please avoid being repetitive if possible. Do we have anyone signed up on the sign-in sheet? Okay, is there anyone who didn't sign up who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, so thank you to everyone who participated in the hearing. We appreciate your time and interest. Please note that this is just the first step in the legal process. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars as best we can while meeting our educational needs. Mr. Pittman, could you please summarize the project resolution?
Yes, the project resolution is required when the school is planning to spend more than $1 million per building. It contains the estimated hard and soft construction cost and the cost of issuance, and establishes the total project cost. It also contains the estimated tax impact.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adopt the project resolution.
I make a motion that we adopt the project resolution as discussed.
All right, Mr. Key makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bailey seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Mr. Pittman, could you please summarize the preliminary bond resolution?
Yes, the preliminary bond resolution contains the project cost for the project, maximum interest rate, and other financial terms, such as the first interest payment date and maturity dates of the bonds.
All right, thank you. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the preliminary bond resolution.
So moved.
Mr. Lambert makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. King seconds. Any discussion on this motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Mr. Pittman, could you please summarize the reimbursement resolution?
Yes, the next resolution is a reimbursement resolution relating to the financing of the construction project. This resolution permits the school corporation to reimburse itself from bond proceeds for any cash which it might spend on the project prior to the closing on the bonds. It is required by federal tax law in order to preserve the school corporation's ability to reimburse itself.
All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion to adopt the reimbursement resolution.
So moved.
Mr. Bailey makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Parsley seconds. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion carries. So then I need to adjourn this. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Mr. King makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lambert seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And do we need to wait 10 minutes before we start this?
Yes.
So we will have our regular public meeting in 9 minutes, starting at 6 p.m.